Something is happening in you right now, not around you, in you, at a level deeper than thought, deeper than emotion, deeper than the ordinary experience of being alive in a body on an ordinary Tuesday in June. Something that has been building for longer than you realize, and that today, June 3rd, has reached the point of activation. And activation is the right word, not arrival, not delivery. Activation, because what is happening today is not something new entering from the outside. It is something that was always inside you, reaching the conditions it needed to switch on. Like a dormant capacity that has been present since the beginning, waiting for the specific combination of season and testing and celestial alignment that would create the right conditions for it to wake up. Those conditions arrived with the Sagittarius Blue Moon, and the activation began, and today it reaches a point that cannot be reversed, cannot be undone, cannot be quietly put back to sleep by doubt or by circumstances or by the opinions of people who cannot see what is happening in you because it is happening at a level they do not have access to. Something enormous is activating in your soul on June 3rd, and it cannot be stopped. Now I want to tell you what activation actually means. Because it is one of those spiritual words that gets used without enough precision. And precision matters when we are talking about something this significant happening in the soul of a chosen one. Activation is the moment when potential becomes capacity, when what was possible becomes what is present, when what existed in latent form, waiting, compressed, coiled, unreleased, finally expresses itself as a living, functioning, operational reality in the life of the person who carries it. Every chosen one carries something in their soul that has not yet been fully activated, a depth of perception, a quality of discernment, a capacity for receiving spiritual information that most people do not have access to, a level of connection with the universe that operates above the ordinary frequency of human experience. These capacities have been present since birth. They are part of what makes a chosen one who they are, but they do not activate all at once. They activate in stages, each stage unlocked by a specific combination of readiness and alignment and divine timing. And June 3rd, in the days following the Sagittarius Blue Moon, is one of those stage activations, a significant one, the kind that chosen ones look back on months later and say, something changed after that, I was different, I could access things I could not access before, I saw things I had not seen before, I knew things I had not known before. The kind of activation that marks a before and after in the spiritual history of a chosen one's life. That is what is happening today. And I want you to understand the full weight of that, not to create pressure or performance anxiety, but because understanding the significance of what is happening helps you cooperate with it rather than accidentally resisting it, because the activation that is happening today requires your cooperation. Not your effort, not your striving, not your performance of spiritual readiness, your cooperation, your willingness to be present for what is happening, your openness to what is activating rather than your attempt to control or direct or manage it. And cooperation requires awareness. You cannot cooperate with something you do not know is happening. Now you know, so cooperate. Let me tell you what specifically is activating, because I want to be precise. There are 3 capacities that the Sagittarius Blue Moon sequence has been unlocking in chosen ones, and that reach their point of full activation today on June 3rd. The first is the capacity for soul-level discernment. This is different from ordinary intuition, which most people have in some degree. Soul-level discernment is the ability to perceive the true nature of situations and people and opportunities at a depth that bypasses the ordinary filtering mechanisms of the mind. It is the ability to know something is true or false, safe or unsafe, aligned or misaligned before any logical analysis has been done, before the evidence has been gathered, before the reasoning has been completed. The knowing arrives complete, pre-assembled, as a full, clear, reliable perception of what is actually happening below the surface of what appears to be happening. Most chosen ones have had glimpses of this capacity throughout their lives, moments of knowing that they could not explain, moments where they said something is wrong here and could not say why, and then were proven right. Moments where a situation felt right at a level beneath logic, and the feeling turned out to be accurate beyond what logic could have predicted. Those glimpses were the activation beginning. Today the capacity fully switches on, And from June 3rd forward, the soul-level discernment that was previously available only in glimpses becomes consistently available as a reliable, accessible, fully operational capacity that you can draw on in every significant situation, not occasionally. Consistently, not with uncertainty about whether to trust it, with the settled knowledge that it is accurate. This changes everything about how you navigate your life, because you will stop being fooled by appearances, stop being misled by presentations, stop investing in situations and relationships that look right but feel wrong, because the feeling will be accurate, and you will trust it. And acting on accurate discernment consistently produces results that acting on logic and appearance alone never could. The second capacity activating today is what I would call energetic authority, the ability to influence the frequency of the space around you rather than being influenced by it. To walk into a room and raise its frequency rather than having your frequency lowered by the room's existing energy. To be in the presence of low-frequency energy, of fear, of doubt, of negativity, of heaviness, and to remain at your own frequency rather than being pulled into the frequency of what surrounds you. Most chosen ones have experienced the opposite of this for most of their lives. They are sensitive, they feel energy deeply, and that sensitivity, which is actually a gift and part of what makes them chosen ones, has also meant that they absorb the energy of their environments and the people in them in ways that are often costly. They leave certain interactions feeling drained. They enter certain spaces and feel themselves contract. They are affected by the emotional states of the people around them in ways that other people simply are not. And that sensitivity will not diminish after today's activation. The depth of perception that the sensitivity enables is valuable and is not being taken away. But what changes is the directionality of the influence. From June 3rd forward, the sensitivity is directional. You can feel what is in the room without being pulled into it. You can perceive the energy of the people around you without absorbing it. You can remain at your own frequency while being fully present in environments that are operating at lower frequencies. And the secondary effect of energetic authority is that your presence begins to influence what is around you rather than the reverse. When you walk into a space, the space begins to shift toward your frequency rather than your frequency shifting toward the space. When you enter a conversation, the conversation begins to orient around the clarity and the groundedness you carry rather than being able to pull you into confusion or heaviness or doubt. This is an enormous shift, and it activates today. The third capacity activating is the ability to receive direct guidance from the universe with unusual clarity. Communication that has previously come in whispers becomes, after June 3rd, noticeably clearer. Signs that were previously ambiguous become more readable. Knowings that were previously uncertain become more settled. The channel between your consciousness and the field of intelligence that the universe is opens wider, allows more to come through with less static, with less distortion, with more of the original signal intact. This does not mean you will suddenly have all the answers. The universe does not communicate that way. It communicates in the language of direction rather than destination, in the language of next step rather than final outcome. But the clarity of the next step guidance increases significantly after today's activation, which means navigating what comes next becomes significantly less uncertain, significantly less reliant on guesswork or analysis or other people's opinions. Because the direct guidance is more consistently available and more consistently reliable. These three capacities, soul-level discernment, energetic authority, and clear direct guidance, activating simultaneously in the soul of a chosen one on June 3rd is an enormous event in the spiritual life of that person. And it is happening to you, right now, whether you feel it dramatically at the surface level or not. The activation is occurring regardless. Because it was always going to occur at this specific point in this specific sequence, but feeling it matters. Because consciously receiving what is activating, being aware of it, welcoming it, cooperating with it, accelerates the full expression of each capacity. What might take weeks to fully establish through unconscious activation establishes in days through conscious cooperation. So I want to give you a specific practice for today that helps you consciously cooperate with what is activating. Find stillness, even briefly, even imperfectly, a few minutes of genuine quiet in which you are not consuming or producing or engaging, just present. And in that stillness, consciously address each of the three capacities that are activating. For the discernment, say this internally: I receive the full activation of my soul-level discernment. I trust what I know before I know why I know it. I trust the deep perception over the surface appearance. I am a chosen one who sees clearly. For the energetic authority, say this: I receive the full activation of my energetic authority. My frequency is my own. It is not determined by my environment. I carry my frequency into every space and every relationship, and the spaces and relationships around me respond to what I carry. For the clear guidance, say this: I receive the full activation of my direct connection to universal guidance. The channel is open, the signal is clear, I hear what the universe is saying. I trust it and I act on it. Those three declarations, made in genuine stillness with genuine intention, are enough to consciously cooperate with what is activating today. You do not need to feel anything dramatic when you say them, you just need to mean them. And the activation that is already in progress will complete with the full cooperation of your conscious intention rather than despite your unawareness of it. Now I want to tell you what life looks like after June 3rd, after the activation is complete, after the three capacities are fully switched on and you begin operating from them consistently rather than occasionally. It looks different, noticeably different, to you and eventually to the people around you. Not because you will look different on the outside or behave dramatically differently in obvious ways, but because the quality of your perception and your navigation and your engagement with the world will carry something that was not there before. A specificity, a clarity, a groundedness. A quality of knowing that other people will notice even if they cannot name it. People will begin to sense that you see things they do not see. They will bring situations to you for your perception. They will value your discernment. They will notice that your read of a situation is consistently more accurate than what appears on the surface. And that noticing is the world beginning to respond to the activation, beginning to recognize, even without understanding what happened, that something changed in you, and opportunities will begin to arrive that match the activated version of you. Not the old opportunities that were sized for the pre-activation version. New ones, larger ones, ones that require the specific capacities that just activated, ones that were not available before because the capacities they require were not yet operational. From June 3rd forward, as the activation completes and the capacities become fully established, the doors that open will be the doors that were always meant for the fully activated chosen one you are becoming. Something enormous is activating in your soul today, and it cannot be stopped. Receive it, cooperate with it, trust it, and watch what June becomes when a chosen one with fully activated soul capacities begins to move through it. Write activated in the comments if you felt something shift as you watched this. I read every one. Subscribe and turn on notifications. What comes after activation is something chosen ones need to be prepared for. The next video will tell you exactly what that looks like. Now I want to go deeper on what the activation of each capacity actually feels like in practice, because I described the capacities in terms of what they are and what they produce, but I want to describe how they feel when they are operating, because recognizing the feeling is how you know the activation is working, how you distinguish genuine soul-level perception from ordinary thinking, how you trust what you are receiving rather than second-guessing it. Soul-level discernment, when it is operating, feels like a specific kind of stillness that precedes a knowing, not the stillness of nothing happening, the stillness of something settling, like the surface of water going calm after turbulence, and in that calm a knowing surfaces, complete. Without the usual sense of having figured something out, without the sensation of reasoning toward a conclusion, it simply appears, already formed, already certain. And the certainty is not the aggressive certainty of the ego that insists it is right. It is the quiet certainty of something that simply is what it is, that does not need to defend itself, that would remain true even if you never acknowledged it. That is what genuine soul-level discernment feels like. And the more you recognize that specific quality of stillness preceding knowing, the more reliably you can access it, not by forcing it, by creating the conditions of stillness that allow it to surface. And those conditions are simpler than most people think. A few breaths, a genuine releasing of the need to figure it out, a quiet turning of attention inward, and the discernment that is now activated in you surfaces on its own, because it is always there. It is just now consistently accessible rather than occasionally available. Energetic authority, when it is operating, feels like a specific quality of rootedness, like being grounded to something that does not move. When you walk into a charged room, a room full of tension or anxiety or conflict or heavy emotion, the person without energetic authority feels the room, gets pulled into its frequency, finds their own state shifting toward what the room is carrying. But the person with energetic authority activated experiences something different. They feel the room. The sensitivity to what is there does not go away, but they feel it from a grounded place. From a place that the room cannot reach and cannot move. And because they are not moved by the room, they can perceive it clearly, can see what is happening without being swept into it, can respond with clarity rather than react from absorption. That specific quality of rootedness, of feeling without being swept in, is what energetic authority feels like, and it grows stronger with use. Every time you walk into a challenging, energetic environment and consciously choose to maintain your own frequency, the capacity grows. Every time you feel the pull of someone else's fear or anxiety or negativity, and consciously choose to stay at your own frequency rather than being pulled down, the rootedness deepens. The capacity is activated today. But it grows through the conscious choices you make with it in the days and weeks and months ahead. And the clear guidance when it is operating feels like a specific kind of resonance, not a voice, not a dramatic revelation, a resonance, a quality of rightness that specific thoughts or impressions carry when they arrive from the guidance channel rather than from the ordinary analytical mind. The ordinary mind produces thoughts that feel like work, like the grinding of gears, like the effortful process of reasoning from premises to conclusion. But the guidance that comes through the open channel arrives differently. It arrives with a quality of ease, of already doneness, like it was assembled elsewhere and delivered complete. And when it resonates, when it rings true at the soul level, the body often confirms it, a relaxation in the chest, a releasing of held tension, a sense of landing, of arriving at something that was already true before you heard it. That resonance is the signature of genuine guidance versus the product of anxious thinking, and learning to distinguish between them, to recognize the resonance versus the grinding, is one of the most valuable skills a chosen one can develop. And today's activation gives you a significantly cleaner version of the guidance signal to work with. Less noise, more signal, easier to distinguish from what the anxious mind produces. Now I want to address something that is going to be one of the most significant challenges of operating with these newly activated capacities. Something that most spiritual teachers do not prepare their students for. The challenge of social trust and the newly activated perceptions. When your soul-level discernment is fully activated, you are going to see things about people that you did not see before. Not always flattering things, not always comfortable things. You are going to perceive the gap between what people present and what they actually carry, between what they say and what is actually motivating them, between the surface friendship and the underlying dynamic. And this perception is accurate, and it is valuable, and it is a gift. But it also requires wisdom in its application, because perceiving something true about someone does not automatically mean you need to act on it immediately, does not mean you need to confront it, does not mean you need to create distance or end the relationship or announce what you have seen. Sometimes the perception is simply information, context, something to hold quietly while you navigate the relationship with greater awareness, something to factor into your decisions without making it the subject of the relationship. The discernment that is activating today is not a weapon. It is a navigation tool, and navigation tools are most effective when used quietly and skillfully rather than aggressively or reactively. So as the discernment begins to show you things about the people in your life, hold what you see with both the confidence of accurate perception and the wisdom of knowing how and when and whether to act on it. Not everything seen needs to be said. Not everything perceived needs to be confronted. Sometimes the most powerful use of discernment is simply to navigate more wisely from the information it provides, without the other person ever knowing that you saw what you saw. That is the mature expression of the capacity that is activating today. Accurate perception held with wisdom and applied skillfully. Now I want to close with something about the scope of what June 3rd represents in the larger arc of the Chosen One's journey, because I have been talking about today as though it stands alone. But it does not. It is part of something much larger, a sequence that has been in motion for longer than this month, longer than this year. The Chosen One's journey is not a linear progression from point A to point B, it is a spiral. It returns to the same themes again and again, but at greater depth, with greater capacity, with greater access to what those themes actually hold. And the activations that happen along the spiral are the mechanism by which the depth increases. Each activation unlocks a new layer of what has always been present, a new level of what the Chosen One was always capable of, a new access to what was always available but not yet reachable. June 3rd is one of those activation moments on the spiral. A significant one, the kind that marks a discernible shift in the depth at which the Chosen One is operating. And from this point on the spiral, looking back at where they were before this activation, Chosen Ones almost always experience a quality of grateful disbelief. How did I not see that? How did I navigate all of that without the discernment I now have? How did I manage in environments and relationships and situations without the energetic authority I can now access? The answer is that they managed because they had to, because the capacity was not yet activated, and they navigated with what was available. And they did better than they knew. They held more than they realized. They carried more faith and more resilience and more spiritual strength through more difficult territory than they give themselves credit for. And all of that carrying, all of that enduring, all of that choosing to hold on through the spiral's difficult passages is exactly what created the readiness for today's activation. The capacity that is switching on today required the preparation that the difficult passages provided. Nothing was wasted, nothing was pointless. Everything that felt like detour was actually the spiral going deeper. Every difficult season was the formation that made this activation possible. June 3rd is the reward for the spiral. The next level, the deeper access, the greater capacity, made available to the Chosen One who traveled the difficult passages and came out the other side still believing. That is you. You traveled the passages, you came out the other side, and today the reward activates. Something enormous is happening in your soul and it cannot be stopped. Write activated in the comments. I read every one. Subscribe and turn on notifications. What comes after activation is a new way of moving through the world, and Chosen Ones need to know what to expect. The next video will prepare you for exactly that. Now I want to speak honestly about something that I think is important for Chosen Ones to hear alongside the message of activation. Because spiritual messages that only describe what is opening and activating, without also addressing what that requires of the person receiving them, can unintentionally create a passive relationship with the process. A sense that the activation happens to you and you simply wait to experience the results. That is not how it works, and I want to be clear about that. The activation that is happening today creates capacity. It does not create outcomes. Capacity is the raw material. Outcomes are what you build with it, and building requires choices, requires action, requires the deliberate application of newly activated capacities to the actual situations and relationships and decisions of your real life. Soul-level discernment that is never acted on produces no different outcomes than the absence of discernment. You might perceive more accurately, but if you continue to make choices based on what appears on the surface rather than what you actually know is underneath, the discernment is not serving its purpose. Energetic authority that is never consciously maintained in challenging environments produces no different results than the absence of energetic authority. The capacity to hold your frequency is available, but if you continue to collapse into the frequencies around you out of habit or social pressure or the desire to accommodate, the authority is not being exercised, and clear guidance that arrives but is never acted on because the action feels too risky or too different from what logic suggests or too much like faith that might be wrong, that guidance might as well not have arrived. The activation gives you access. What you do with the access is entirely your responsibility, and that responsibility is not a burden. It is the dignity of being a chosen one, the dignity of being someone who has been given real capacity and who is expected to actually use it, to make real choices from it, to take real steps with it, to trust it enough to act on it even when acting on it is not the safe or comfortable or logical thing to do. That is what the activated chosen one is being invited into on June 3rd, not passive reception of outcomes, active navigation with new tools, real choices made from newly reliable discernment, real boundaries maintained with newly established energetic authority, real steps taken in response to newly clear guidance. The activation is the gift, using it is the response. And the universe is watching for the response, not to judge, to know what to send next, because what you do with the capacity you have been given determines what capacity you are given next. The spiral continues, the depth increases, but it increases in response to how the current level of capacity is being used. Use what is activating today, not perfectly, not dramatically, just genuinely, in the real decisions and real situations and real relationships of your actual life, and watch what the universe sends in response. Something enormous has activated in your soul today. Now use it. Write activated in the comments. Subscribe and turn on notification. The journey continues and what comes next builds on today. You need to know what is ahead. And before you close this video, one final thing. For the chosen ones who watched all the way to the end and are sitting with a quiet question. The question that sounds like, but what if I do not feel any of this? What if the activation is described here, but my actual experience of June 3rd is just an ordinary Tuesday? I want to answer that question honestly. Activation at the soul level is not always felt at the surface level. The deepest changes happen below the threshold of conscious experience, and the fact that you do not feel a dramatic shift today does not mean nothing shifted. It means the shift happened at a depth below what surface sensation can register. What you will feel is the result, in the days ahead, in the gradually increasing reliability of your discernment, in the gradually strengthening quality of your groundedness in challenging environments, in the gradually clearer signal of the guidance that arrives. It builds, it becomes unmistakable over days and weeks rather than in a single moment. Trust the process even when the moment does not feel dramatic. The activation is the capacity is growing, and June will show you the evidence of both. Write activated in the comments. The evidence is coming. Now I want to speak to the relational dimension of what is activating today, because activation does not happen in isolation. It happens in the context of a life that includes other people, and the people in your life are going to experience the activated version of you differently than they experienced the pre-activation version. And being prepared for that difference helps you navigate it with wisdom rather than being caught off guard by it. Some people in your life are going to welcome what is activating. They are going to feel the change in your presence and respond to it positively. They are going to find you easier to trust, more grounded, more clear, more fully yourself in a way that makes the relationship feel more real and more nourishing. These are the relationships that are compatible with the activated version of you, the ones that belong in your next season, and the activation will strengthen and deepen them naturally. But some people in your life are going to find the activated version of you more challenging than the previous version, not because they are bad people, but because the previous version of you was, in certain ways, more manageable, more uncertain, more willing to defer to their perception of a situation over your own, more susceptible to having your knowing overridden by their confidence. And the activated version, with its discernment and its groundedness and its willingness to trust its own perception, is going to be harder to manage in that way. These people are not necessarily going to be aware of why the dynamic feels different. They may not be able to articulate what has changed, but they will feel it, and some of them will push back, will attempt to re-establish the old dynamic, will question your perception or your judgment or your new sense of direction in ways that feel like care but are actually resistance to the change in you. Do not be surprised by this, and do not let it make you question the activation. It is not evidence that something has gone wrong. It is evidence that something has gone right. That the activation is real enough to change the dynamic in relationships that were built on a version of you that no longer fully exists. Navigate these relationships with patience and with the discernment that is now available to you. You can see what is happening. You can hold it with wisdom. You can continue to love the people involved while also maintaining the new ground that the activation has established. You do not have to choose between the relationship and the activation. You can honor both with clarity and with care, but do not collapse the activation for the sake of the comfort of people who preferred the previous version. The activated version is who you actually are, and the relationships that are meant to continue will eventually adjust to it. Something enormous has activated. Hold it, even in the relational complexity that comes with it.